Hey, everybody, welcome to episode number 83 of the Debt Free Dad podcast. So I got an email from one of our listeners asking this question a while back ago, and we wanted to create a podcast episode about this question. It says, Brad, I've been listening to your podcast, but I'm afraid to put in the work. I'm finding it challenging to get myself motivated, along with telling myself that I will not be able to spend money frivolously. What can I do to overcome this so I can get myself in a better place financially? And I personally think that this is a really awesome question, and I think this scenario plays out for a lot of people, and I think a lot of people struggle with this initially, and I think it keeps a lot of people stuck from getting started. So what should this person do? And if you're feeling a little bit this way, what should you do? And that's what we're going to talk about on today's episode. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Debt Free Dad podcast, where we're helping normal, everyday people learn how to save money and kick debt so they can live a happier and stress-free life. Now here's your host, Debt Free Dad, Brad Nelson.
Hey, how is everyone doing today? You can find me on Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, and Instagram. Just search Brad Nelson, Debt Free Dad. And as always, welcome to today's show. We're glad you're with us. And guys, this is a great question. Again, I want to just reread this. Again, Brad, I've been listening to your podcast, but I'm afraid to put in the work. I'm finding it challenging to get myself motivated, along with telling myself that I will not be able to spend money frivolously. What can I do to overcome this so I can get myself in a better place financially? So I know we're going to kind of go through this kind of point by point, because there's a couple of different things happening within this question. I think we should dissect each one of them. But how do you guys relate to this when you guys first started? I know I can, especially the frivolous spending part. When I first started thinking about being debt free, one of the things that I did, and what a lot of people do, is they think, oh, well, you can't have any fun if you want to be debt free. Like, how can you have fun and pay cash? Like, when you're so broke, it's hard to imagine actually having money to do fun things. So when I started thinking about this lifestyle, it's like, those are some of the first things that I started thinking about. It wasn't necessarily the motivation part. It was just the frivolous spending, not being able to have fun for me, I think.
I think it was just the having to say no, feeling like, oh, I'm going to always have to say no. I'm not going to be able to do anything with anybody anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. But you guys didn't have that. In fact, I love your guys' testimony was the opposite.
Yeah,
which is
as soon as we started telling our money where to go, it was like, oh, wait, I could tell my money that I want to go out for dinner a couple times a month. Oh, yeah, I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was a lot about just, I don't want to say not motivated, but it was just, we had a lot of debt to pay off. So I think for us, it was a lot more of just not even being able to see like the possibility of being able to do that. So it was almost easier just to say, I don't really care. Like, I don't want to do it because it's just so much.
Yeah. I think, I should correct what I said. I think for me, motivation wasn't a factor when I actually finally got started. What kept me not very motivated, because I've heard about this information prior to actually physically starting it and learning about personal finance. Yes, you should save more. Yes, you should live below your means. Yes, you should have a budget. Like, these are common things that a lot of us hear about. I think my situation wasn't bad enough, though. I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, and I think that's what demotivated me in a lot of ways at first, right? But then once I lost my house, I was getting divorced, and then I was like, I really need to get motivated, and that was just forced motivation to really improve the situation. But the best part about this question for me is that this person understands that they want to get themselves in a better place financially. I think that is the key to this entire question, is that I want to improve my finances. And I've actually had people plenty of times say, Brad, I just went through your workshop, or I've heard some of your information. Talk me into this. Like, why should I do this? And I just tell them straight out. And I used to. That was one of the common mistakes I made at first when I was a financial coach. I like trying to talk everybody into it. It's like, I learned very, very quickly, if you have to be talked into this, you're not ready. You're not even close to being ready to putting in the work to do the stuff that we talk a lot about on the show, because it's easy concepts we talk about, but it's hard work to implement and to do the stuff that we're talking about. But I think for this individual to be saying that I want to be in a better place financially, I think for them, what we like to say is the light bulb's gone off. They're starting to see that maybe I do have some spending habits that need to change. Maybe I do have some habits that need to be improved on. Maybe I do have some debt that's causing some stress. and they're seeing and they're feeling like, I need to do something, but it's still just not quite enough to really kind of get them to jump off and get started. So just the fact that they want better, I think is huge.
I agree. And I think sometimes too, it's, you got to have a big enough reason, a big enough why to do it. And, you know, years ago, I was a former smoker. I tried to quit. I don't know how many times. And it wasn't until we had my son where I finally had a big enough reason why I didn't want to smoke anymore.
Yeah.
And once I had a big enough reason why, I was able to quit and stop smoking. And I think debt is very similar to that. It was very similar to us as well. As we always wanted to be better financially, but that's a very loose goal. Because like if I pay $500 a month on my credit card bill this month, I'm better financially, so I did it. So let's go spend some money. Yeah. You know, so you got to get very specific. I think that's where I think a lot of people fall short, is they have these loose goals, and so it's like, I want to get better financially. Great. What does that mean for you? And so they don't take it any further and really discover, why are you trying to do this? Because that once we figured that out, that was our motivation then.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the big keys in what we do inside Roots, is that, you know, a big part of the very first few modules is really discovering, or at least trying to help them discover, what is it that you really, really want? What are the things that you really want to do? Like Amber, for you, like you guys wanted to get out of your living situation and purchase a home. That was like your guys' big why in getting out of debt. Mine was, I wanted to be a better example to my kids, and I wanted to not work for somebody else the rest of my life. I wanted to start my own business. So you have to kind of take the time, and this is where the work kind of comes in, and this is hard work. This is not easy. It's not, for a lot of people, it takes some deep soul searching in a lot of cases to kind of figure out, okay, what is it that I want, and what is it that I want to do? And unless you have that, it's like Ryan said, it's easy to overlook those loose goals and just keep those old habits, and those old habits take over your emotions all the time. There's no question. Another one that was in this question is that they're afraid to put in the work. And this is a big one, I think, for a lot of people, especially as they're getting started, because, you know, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you're dealing with what the common challenges that most people are dealing with, credit card debt, student loan debt, you know, auto loans, I mean, it could be a combination of a lot of different things. Maybe not being on the same page as a spouse or partner. Like when you get started by yourself and you're looking at it, like it can be very daunting to look at what you're facing. And this is one thing that I know my wife struggled with a lot before we had got married and before she had gotten on a plan. Even though she said she was on a plan, she really wasn't. Like Ryan said, she had very loose goals of, I wanted to get out of debt, but she didn't really get quite serious about it until she actually sat down and really put together a plan on how to do it. Like break it down step by step. Right. And this is where a lot of people just get stuck right out of the gate because, you know, if you listen to, I mean, anything, like there's so much information about out there in personal finance. Oh, you should invest as much as you can. You should save first. You should pay down your debt. You should use the avalanche. You should consolidate your debt. And with all this information, all you got to do is search on Google how to get out of debt. You'll get like 6 billion results. And for a lot of us, that's too many to go through. So what do a lot of us do? We kind of just ignore it, and we just kind of let things just keep going, right? And I think the other thing is that change is just super hard. And Ryan, I mean, you talked about quitting smoking, and I used to be not probably as much of a smoker, but I used to smoke too, and it is hard. But I think getting out of debt for me was much harder because those habits were deeply rooted for many, many years for me. And it took a long time to be able to change a lot of those habits. But I think in order to have success as far as putting in the work, I think you got to break it down step by step. You can't look at everything at all at once because you're just going to stress yourself out. There's no question.
Yeah. And I think this, you know, I'm afraid to put in the work. Some of that probably stems back to fear of failing too. So if you're like, I'm just going to fail, why even bother? You're going to fail. Yeah. Everybody does. I've seen so many celebrations this week that said, oh, I fell off the wagon, I'm back. So like, it's true. You're going to fall backwards and that's okay.
Yep.
Just go back to that plan and start over because everybody's going to fall a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we're talking like break it down into super small obtainable goals. Like if you're just getting started, like one of the first things that you should just work on is really kind of figuring out where you're at. You know, go through how much debt do you have? Like how much income do you have coming in? Getting all of your expenses in order. Looking at ways to build that first emergency fund. Like we're talking about super small, easy, obtainable goals, things that you can achieve within the first 30, 60, 90 days, maybe 4 months of getting started. We don't recommend, hey, you got a $20,000 credit card, that's the thing you should attack first. No, we say small things is the things that you should focus on. And by getting those wins, that's what creates that momentum.
Yeah, I think a good analogy for us is, it's like if you wanted to run a marathon, you're not going to start out by running 26 miles tomorrow. Especially if you've never ran before, it's going to be very small incremental steps every day, every week, until eventually you hit that 26 mile. If you just focus on the 26 miles, it's just like, I'm never going to run 26 miles. But if you just focus every day, today I'm going to run a half a mile. And then next week I'm going to run 3/4 mile. And you just keep building up. Eventually you run 26 miles.
Yep. Yeah, there's no couch to marathon, right? You can't do that. All right, guys. After the break, we're going to talk about how to get yourselves motivated. And if you're one of these people who thinks, like, I'm going to have to give up my entire lifestyle, I can't spend money frivolously or be spontaneous, we're going to talk about some ways on how you can overcome a little bit of that after the break. Stay tuned.
Hey, if you love planners, this is for you. But do you know why planners frustrate me? Because they only really get it half right. Now, sure, they're really good and fancy about helping you manage your time, which is really important, obviously. That's what a planner's for. But where they get it wrong is money, the second most valuable resource in our lives. Most planners don't include any financial planning. Things like, keeping track of paydays, bills, due dates, spending, yearly expenses, budgets, cash flow planning, debt elimination plans, and goal planning, right? None of that stuff. That's a real pain. And then what? Then you got to create your own in some silly binder, right? And who has time for all of that stuff? So instead, what happens? Nothing, right? A lot of people tend to ignore their finances even more, and things only get worse. Well, that all ends today because I am so excited to announce and release my brand new, totally awesome Debt Freedom Planner. This thing's awesome, by the way. Now, before you say, Brad, I've already got a planner. This is not an ordinary day planner. This is the Debt Freedom Planner, which is a companion tool that works with your day planner, and it's built to help you manage your money, pay off more debt, and melt away financial stress. And I believe this is the tool that a lot of people who want to take control of their finances have been waiting for. So head on over to therealdebtfreedad.com, click on the Debt Freedom Planner in the menu to get access to your planner today.
Hey guys, we are back. Today we're talking about how to get motivated to dig your way out of debt and without falling for the common excuses that keep most people into debt. And one of the things we're going to talk about next is really just this whole idea of getting yourself motivated. And I know, Ryan, you kind of mentioned, finding your why, and we can talk a little bit more about that here in this section. But I think number one, for me, it's not a math thing. Like when you're thinking about getting yourself motivated, it's more for me, it's like, how do your finances make you feel right now? In fact, I was just having this conversation with an individual yesterday, believe it or not, messaging me. They're tired of their situation. They want better. But like Ryan, you had mentioned, they had very loose goals. So I said, okay, so these are all great things that you're saying, but you still haven't told me exactly what it is that you want, or what a better feeling feels like, or what stress-free living feels like for you. Like, those are the things that you really want to get defined on. So number one, before you get started on, or just getting yourself motivated, is really determine, how do your finances make you feel right now? And for a lot of us who are living paycheck to paycheck, a lot of us who have just a lot of financial stress, that's what a lot of us feel like. It's stress, it's anxiousness, it's being fearful, to the point of wanting to stick your head in the sand, and you don't want to do anything about it. You just want to ignore it. But these are things that you need to recognize on how you really feel about your finances. And then you can take it one step further. Now that you've written down exactly how you feel today, now think, what if I don't do anything about this? Like, how am I going to feel 5 years from now? Living like this, day in and day out, month after month, year after year for the next 5 years. Then what is life going to feel like? Because I'm here to tell you, nobody accidentally improves their financial situation. There's a lot of people who say, I'm waiting for the right time. There is no right time. The people who are successful make the most of imperfect time. And this is an imperfect time. There's never going to be a perfect time to work on some of this stuff. So really thinking about, what do I feel like today? And what if I take no action? What am I going to feel like 5 years from now? And then you can flip that. You could say, okay, now that I know how I feel, how would I rather feel 5 years from now? Less stress, having more opportunity and choices, being able to breathe, being able to sleep at night, being not stressed when it's payday and wondering how we're going to get all these bills paid, right? Like really define what that means. Is it a certain amount of money in your bank account? Is it a certain amount of debt that you're okay with? Or maybe you're like me who just likes to be debt free. Like you really need to kind of define this for yourself. And I think the more you kind of drill down with this, and again, talking about that why that we talked about earlier, I think the more motivated that you're going to get to start actually starting to take some action. But still, you grow with this. It's not going to be something that you're going to be on fire out of the gate. Some people are, but most people, they work up to it.
This one was really hard for us for a while because this kind of had to get me in touch with my touchy-feely side, which is in a lot of ways is buried way down deep sometimes. And so we had to really kind of take a step back and start examining, not just how do our finances make me feel, but how does this stuff make me feel? How does my house make me feel? How do the cars I have make me feel? Like, why did I buy this house? Why did I buy these cars? Why do I have all these things that I think are going to make me happy, but I'm not happy? Like, what am I trying to do? And that really unlocked some things for us to really start understanding, like, we weren't really buying these things for us. We were buying these things for other people's approval of us. And once we started really, so I totally agree. I think this is hard. People in general, and I'm this way as well, we want to get to the paying off the debt part because that's the part you want to do. But this is the stuff that if you do this, it's going to keep you way more motivated through the process.
Yeah. In my opinion, this is kind of where the meat and potatoes are for a lot of people's motivation is just really determining and understanding what it's going to mean. And again, I know, Amber, you mentioned sometimes you don't get into the wire purpose stuff either. It's hard for you to kind of dig down deep. So talk about that, though. I mean, you still found a reason to do this and to be able to pay off over I think it was like $46,000 in 20 months. I mean, that's impressive. So,
yeah,
I mean,
I'm very like a structured kind of step-by-step person, I guess, analytical. Don't give me no fluff. Just get me to the point.
Not you.
but it was, I was at my wit's end really with our situation, and we were just ready to move on and do something better. And the only way we could do that was to pay off some debt and make better financial decisions. And really what got us is the house. Like we just had this plan. We had it laid out on a bristle board, and I colored stuff in and just made it pretty. And that just got us to where we are now. And now it's just, we're saving and we're looking at different life trips that we've always wanted to go on. So
yeah, right. So even though you don't go into your big why, you still have found it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just don't make me talk about it.
All right, the next one, and probably one of the, I guess maybe excuses or reasons why people find that getting out of debt just doesn't sound that exciting is the whole part of this question was I won't be able to spend money frivolously. If I start doing this and I start living on a budget and I start living on a plan, I'm not going to be able to live, frivolously. I'm not going to be able to spend money the way I want. I'm going to have to live like a hermit. I'm never going to be able to go outside. Right?
I think this is like my funnest topic right now.
It so is, but it is one of the common objections that I hear to a lot of stuff that we do, and this is one of the top things. And again, we live in an overspending society. We do. I mean, we celebrate overspending. We celebrate people buying cars that are way too expensive for them. We celebrate people going on vacations that they probably can't afford, right? We celebrate a lot of just overindulgence. So when we think about detracting a lot of that and cooling a lot of that off, it's hard because that's not what people are doing. And we've talked about a lot on this show, like one of the number one human needs is we want to be validated. And if we aren't doing what everybody else is doing, no one's going to validate me and no one's going to make me feel good about what I'm doing. Right. And that is why I think a lot of this kind of, it goes down a little bit deeper than it's just spending money frivolously. It's probably much more deeply rooted than that. But this is hard. I get that this is hard. This is a hard concept for some people, especially if you're more on the spontaneous side, or maybe more free-spirited side. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about getting out of debt is that you can't have any fun, and it's just not true. Now, I want to be very clear. You make no mistake that you do need to have a plan and you do need to have a budget. Like, you can't successfully do what we're talking about on this show and be careless with it. Carelessness is not going to get you to a debt-free or stress-free life. It's just not going to happen. Like, you're taking your plan and basically lighting a match to it when you become careless with it. It's just not going to mix well. But you can calculate out your carelessness. You could calculate out what you want to be spontaneous with. Like, for instance, like if you want to have extra money in your budget to do something that you're just not sure what that thing is going to be, well, then just put that money in your budget. The key is, as long as your budget can afford to have that money there set aside for whatever that is. So again, maybe you're dating somebody, or maybe you're single, and spontaneously you go out more than, say, a married couple does. Well, you might say, well, Brad, I want to be able to say yes to a lot of those things. Well, go ahead and just put a certain amount of money each month in your budget to be able to say yes to those things. Now, is it going to be perfect every month? Absolutely not. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be much better than just saying yes, 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 and then at the end of the month being like, where did all my money go? I've got all this debt. I've got all this stress. But at least you can take a little bit more of a calculated approach to being spontaneous and to be a little bit more free-spirited with some of this stuff.
It's funny because we thought that when we started budgeting, that we were going to not be able to do anything fun. And we realized we actually had money that we could do fun stuff with, and we were able to do that. And we had a couple friend that joined Roots and didn't really work out for them. And I was talking to them later on, and she said, yeah, my husband just couldn't do it. He likes to have beer and da-da-da. And I was like, so put it in the budget, you know? And she goes, oh, I said, do you have room for it?
Right.
She said, well, yeah. Okay, so put it in the budget. You know how much debt they've paid off since they put beer in the budget? It is crazy. Yeah. They are doing phenomenal, but they just didn't add it in. They didn't think they could add fun in their budget, and you can.
Well, that's the whole marketing thing. Budgets aren't fun. Like budgets are for cheap and broke people, and that's just not true. Like, you can put all the fun you want in your budget. Just have a plan for the fun that you're going to have, and making sure that you're still able to reach other goals. It's a win-win.
Yeah, I love to blow money on stupid stuff sometimes. I still do. I think we had this conversation a number of podcasts back. Like, do you still budget money for yourself every month? And we do. And we did while we were getting out. Now, when we were first starting out and things were tight, we didn't budget a lot because it wasn't there. Kind of like you said, just because you want to do it, if it's not there, you can't just make room for it and then not pay a bill. I mean, right. You've gotta have the money. But as we started making progress, we each kind of had what we called a blow account that we set money aside, and it was money every month that you could do whatever you want with. That was it, though. I mean, we couldn't decide like, I want to spend 3 times this month. It was like, that's the money you get. I don't care what you do with it. And we still live like that, because I'm still the person that goes to Lowe's and I'm like, ooh, I want that. Like, and so I set money aside every month in order to be able to do that, because that's my personality. Yeah,
absolutely. And did you guys find, because I know we found this, in fact, I was just having a conversation with my son a little bit about this, but did you guys find that when you started doing this, you found out that you didn't need as much stuff as you thought you did? And when you really define what it is that you truly like to do and love to do, like Amber, you discovered you had more money to do those things when you cut out the stuff that you were buying that it was really doing nothing for you. You're just buying it either just to have it, or buying it just because you thought you needed it, or really you were spending the money. You didn't even know you were spending it until you actually looked at your expenses, right? Did you guys find, though, that you guys didn't need a lot of the stuff that you initially thought you needed after you started doing this, and it freed up the money that way?
It's crazy when you give yourself 24 hours to decide if you really need something or not. Yeah. Those impulse purchases, oh my gosh. When you're like, you forget about it the next day. Like, oh, I guess I didn't need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and when you give yourself a budget as well, it's easy to go to Lowe's or any home improvement store and drop $500 on this new saw and put it on a credit card. When you don't have that budget, when you're not budgeting that, you can save that money and buy that eventually. It just makes it like you just kind of like Amber said, when you think about it and you have to pause, you're just less like you 100%. Like nowadays I say I go to the store, I buy stuff. Like my old days in debt, I mean, every weekend we were just blowing money. Now it's like, if I go to Lowe's, I bet 80% of the time I walk out with nothing.
Yeah.
Because I don't have that desire to just buy something.
Right. But be realistic. Like you've been doing this quite a while. I mean, how long did it take you to relearn that behavior though? Because we want to be very transparent here. It's not like we snapped our fingers and it was magically changed. It takes time to relearn.
Yeah, 100%. And we were 100% guilty along the way of giving into our, we deserve it. Let's go to Disney we'll just go 2 nights. 2 nights will be cheap. And, we 100% didn't have the money sometimes. And so we're 100% guilty. It's a process. Mm-hmm. It really, I would say all the way up to probably the last year or two of getting out of debt, we were kind of back and forth. We were making a lot more progress. Those first couple of years, though, were 100% like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, because we were just kind of fighting that, and again, it went back to that motivation, our why. It wasn't clear enough. So it was easy to kind of overlook and then spend money again.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And even to be clear, even today, with the way marketing is, we're human. Just because we're debt free doesn't mean we have it perfectly figured out. There's still times you stumble, you make mistakes, you don't do the things exactly the way that you should. Just go back and listen to that drone story from a year ago, which, by the way, I still have not bought one. I've learned, but still, that's a perfect example of something like that happening. It just because we've reached this level doesn't mean we have to continuously like recommit to our plan and the things that we want to do. There's no question. And last but not least, for this individual or anyone who's feeling like this, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, you've got to want to do this. Nobody can talk you into changing any part of your life. Like Ryan said, he quit smoking. I quit smoking many years ago. It's like someone could have told me till they're blue in the face to quit smoking. I wasn't going to quit until I was ready to quit smoking. I wasn't ready to get out of debt until I was ready to get out of debt. And we're not going to be able to convince you to get out of debt. But the key is that hopefully by following some of the steps that we shared here today is that, this hopefully gets that light bulb to go off. That's the whole point of this entire podcast, is just to show people that, listen, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you're stressed about your finances, if you're tired of not having any money in a savings account, if you're tired of debt and payments, and maybe you want a different career or work less hours or whatever, it's totally possible. Now, is there a lot of stuff that you got to do and work on to get there? Yes, but it's totally possible. And if you want to change your life, you can do it. You can have a much better financial life. You just got to spend some time considering some of the things that we talked about here today.
Hey, what's this I see? I thought this was a party! Let's
All right. That sound means it's time for the celebrations of the show. And these are individuals who have decided that they want to make some big changes. Got some great celebrations today. We're going to kick it off with Elizabeth Jones. I finally have a win. I sold my couch and love seat that's been in storage and was able to settle and pay for my Kohl's charge card. That is an incredible trade-off, especially for something that's been sitting in storage. Awesome win, Elizabeth.
Jessica Phillip had to get a new dishwasher, and instead of paying $250 for installation, I did it myself. The best part was my 6-year-old daughter laying on the floor and helping me with plumbing and electrical.
Now that is a talented 6-year-old. That's awesome.
Jill Brown mailed off our mortgage payoff today and paid off a medical bill yesterday. Had a $10 off coupon for my lunch. Pretty good day.
Yeah,
pretty good day. Pretty good day. That's awesome.
Pretty awesome day, Jill. Congratulations to you for paying off that mortgage. That is fantastic. Stacy Altapeter continuing to unsubscribe from email. Where do they all come from? I know, it's crazy. Working to finalize next month's budget. Set aside cash to pay for the county fair. I also implemented a task a day with my kids to promoting helping out more. That's awesome. Great job. Great wins.
Chris Densis, July budget done, paid off a credit card with which financed our new Central Air last year, paid $835 towards other credit cards for a total of $1,278.19 towards debt. Credit cards already paid for in July.
That is awesome. Huge win, Chris. Congratulations to you.
Amelia Welch tallied how much debt has been eliminated since we started, and it's officially over $16,000.
Yeah, that is incredible. Less than a year. Joined Roots back in October. They have just been crushing it. Huge congratulations.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us here today. We love your feedback, and it also helps us grow our YouTube show. So please give us a like or leave us some honest feedback on this video. And if you want the latest from the show, obviously be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe to our channel. And for the latest resources, or if you want more information on how to kick debt and financial stress, please be sure to check out the links in this video or head over to therealdebtfreedad.com. We'll see you guys on an upcoming show. Take care.